This program was first broadcast on Canterbury's access media station, Plains FM, and was made with the assistance of New Zealand On Air.
Hello and welcome to Breaking Ground, a podcast about earth-moving machinery and characters in the industry. Both your hosts work for Terra Cat, New Zealand's Caterpillar machinery dealer. I'm Marty Turek.
And I'm Richard Clark. In this podcast we hear stories from a wide range of people, and today we're introducing Allan Dippie. Starting out as a schoolboy in the Catlins, sourcing and selling panga logs, Allan is now a successful businessman based in Wanaka, with a family business operation spanning multiple enterprises throughout Otago and Southland, including Central Machine Hire. He's the founder of the Wheels at Wanaka show, a vintage machinery enthusiast, and he also has a massive passion for car racing. Welcome, Allan.
Good afternoon, guys. Yeah, pleased to be here.
Now, I saw an interview with your brother Martin, where he says he loves retail, but you love diggers.
Yeah, it's probably true. Martin and I started out in business together way back in the about 1980, early 80s, very early 80s, when we were at school, and we always didn't mind a bit of work, and we had paper runs in those days, and we used to, unlike other kids, we used to deliver both papers, the one in the morning and the one in the afternoon, the Otago Daily Times and the Evening Star. Now the problem with it was that your weekly pay for, say, delivering the Evening Star for 6 days a week was, I think it was $2.83 a week. That's $2.83 a week. And we kind of wanted to work out a better way of earning some money.
Of course.
As kids. So we convinced our parents to let us loose with an old J1 Bedford truck, a couple of chainsaws, and away we went down to the Catlins every weekend. And we cut panga logs down and we sold them during the week. And pretty soon we were earning quite a bit more than $2.83 a week. And we thought it was a great, and we had a monopoly. And a monopoly is always a great thing to get if you can get it, but it's a pretty rare commodity, a monopoly. But we were the only guys doing it in the whole of Dunedin. So we were pretty good at advertising these panga logs in the papers that we once delivered. In the classified, we had these little classified ads, and we sold pangas all day long, and we learnt the value of marketing. We learnt the value of repeat clients, because we had a lot of repeat clients, and pretty soon we couldn't keep up with business, so we started to employ our schoolmates and go down, on the school holidays for a whole week, cutting panga logs down. And this is when it all started. We were convinced we needed to increase productivity, so we bought an Oliver OC3 crawler, which was the first machine we ever bought. God knows why our parents let us buy it. And then we cut our own tracks into the bush, and we pulled out the pangas on our father's trailer. And it really increased productivity, and that was our first sort of real look at how machines could be of benefit to us in our future business. But at that stage, of course, we didn't know that they would be such a benefit, when you look at what we do now. And there's a funny story. One day we were carting out these pangas with Dad's trailer, and in those days trailers had wooden drawbars. They were pretty much homemade things. And I can remember we used to load this trailer up beyond all capabilities. And one day we came out of the bush just with the drawbar, no trailer. So I think that trailer's still down in the Catlins forest. So they were great days, great introduction to business, and we created quite a good business for ourselves. I then went to Lincoln College after leaving school, and I left school as soon as I could and went to Lincoln College to do something practical. And as soon as and Lincoln was great, we were with the Dippie boys, and we were learning a bit of life, up here in Canterbury. And it was a great 3 years, and I concentrated on things like plant science and soil science, but more importantly, marketing, because marketing is everything in this world. If you know a bit about marketing and selling something, or selling yourself, or selling both, you can go anywhere. So I've always encouraged people to think about marketing. So that's where it all started. Came back from, when I left Lincoln, I was offered the first job in my life, which was with Wrightson's as a stock agent. Not that I knew anything about that really that much. It was $15,000 a year by this stage, and
You probably got a car with it as well, didn't you?
Yeah, got a Holden Ute, I think it was, a Ute, a car, and a pair of gumboots, I think it was. And anyway, I got offered this job. I thought, this is good. Someone wants to pay me to do something. We're always used to working for ourselves. But anyway, I turned it down in the end. I just couldn't go, and I couldn't see myself being a stock agent. So instead, I bought a little tractor and a Holden Ute. It was a 1-tonner and a tandem trailer. And I started up this one-man landscaping business using a few punga logs, actually.
They certainly go in very handy, don't they?
Yeah. So that's how we started. It was pretty humble beginnings. A little Kubota tractor, B8200, still remember it to this day. And it was sort of before the hire companies had even had these tractors. You got to remember this is 1984. So the hire, it might have been 85. The hire companies didn't even have tractors, let alone little diggers that you could hire. So we got really good at, and this is in Dunedin, so we got really good at doing some pretty outstanding things with a little Kubota tractor with a front end loader on it. We used to dig out walls, we used to climb up banks with it, and we used to tip it over occasionally as well. And it probably wasn't the same degree of health and safety, but that taught us a lot because it taught us a bit about, survival, and being a bit practical about things. It also taught us how to blow a clutch in a Holden 1-tonner that was carting 2-ton constantly. So we put so many clutches in the thing that it pretty soon taught us we needed, fit for purpose type equipment, which hopefully we've got nowadays. So anyway, that's the beginnings of the whole.
It certainly sounds like the love of machinery goes quite a long way back, and it, as you said, even way back then it was helping you with your productivity.
It was
back in the day.
Yeah. But there was one thing missing, and I had no idea how to delegate things, you see. And what the problem was, when you think about it back in those days, easy to think about it now, but there were only so many hours in the week. And in so many hours, your little tractor could be working, and so many hours your Holden 1-tonner could be delivering stuff around the town. And we used to always work 7 days a week anyway, and into the night. But at the end of the day, we quickly found that to actually expand the business, we needed to employ staff and to have more than one machine. And to do that, you need to be able to delegate. And it's a really important skill for business owners, particularly small business owners, to be able to understand. They will be able to increase their productivity beyond anything they can imagine by delegating, if delegation is for them. And I know a lot of people that are good at it, and some people that aren't.
And I suppose that sort of thinking about a fleet sort of size as well. You had 2 machines or 1 machine and a ute kind of thing. So if we sort of look to where you are now as far as central machine hire and stuff like that, how different is the fleet now, obviously, compared to back then? What does your fleet sort of look like now?
Well, when we started to get serious about landscaping, the first thing we bought was the little diggers at the time, which were quite basic little diggers back in those days, and that was the start of it. And we were pretty much scared of big trucks and big gear because we were landscapers. But that all changed after we'd expanded into Central Otago. We've chased work in those days. It's tough. It was tough days. In 87, we were starting to expand interest rates for 20%, and that was only your first mortgage. The second mortgage was about 25. Perhaps they're heading that way today. Anyway, so it was tough, and it was tough to get work. I can remember pricing work and thinking, I might take $500 off that quote just so we make sure we get it, so we can keep ourselves working. They were tough days compared to now. It was a tough economy. It was a tough environment. But anyway, we eventually found our niche, which was stopping working so much for everybody else and starting to do our own projects. And that's when we started to do land development, which we always thought was just a big landscaping project anyway. So we started in '93, and we became essentially landscapers turned land developers, and it was a great transition. And of course, that's when we teamed up with Kevin Capel, who had a business in Wanaka. He was a bit like me, really. He just started off with slightly bigger machines. He had one bulldozer operation, and by that stage he'd expanded to about 8 staff, and we had him doing a lot of subdivision work for us. We were doing the landscaping, and eventually what happened, we ended up buying 50% of Kevin's business, and now of course it's been renamed Central Machine Hire, and we've taken it over and expanded it beyond what we ever thought possible.
And so, just for those that don't sort of know too much about Central Machine Hire, how sort of vast is the operation that you guys are running?
It's a medium-sized company in the group.
Yeah.
The company's expanded in all sorts of directions, from landscaping into retail, from garden retail into hardware retailing. My brother and I do all sorts of things. We've got all sorts of businesses, but there's one common denominator. They're all in Otago and Southland, and so the contracting division became a sort of my baby, and that's when that first comment you made of Martin loving retail and myself loving diggers is perfectly true, because he can't see, he just can't see the point of what we do, and I tolerate his retail activities. And so it's a great mix. But anyway, Kevin taught us a lot. He was a Caterpillar man. He really was. True. Caterpillars and Macs. And today that's still the case, really. So
great combination there.
That's where it started. And it's been a great ride over those 20 or 30 years, just expanding the company. It's got about 50 staff now in the core operation, based in Wanaka, but we do work all over Otago. We've got subdivision projects in the different townships, and some in Dunedin as well. I've always stayed pretty loyal to the hometown.
Nice, that's brilliant. So you briefly mentioned about burning out the clutch on a 1-ton Holden. Comparing that to now and products and that sort of thing, what's some of the things that you look for in your equipment now that sort of stand out as the things that you sort of be must-haves or anything in any form of equipment?
Well, back in the day, it was a bit like the farmer was dependent on the Land Rover, and that was all you could get. If you wanted to get up steep country, you sort of had a Land Rover or nothing. And then Toyota Land Cruisers were invented, and they probably changed everything. Well, the same analogy applies to the Holden 1-tonners. There was very little you could get. The Bedford J1 was a great truck with the pungas, but then Japanese trucks came along with the little Japanese tippers, which we still run today. And then we were always frightened of bigger trucks, but then we got into bigger trucks, and obviously Max, and now we run Max and Isuzus and things like that. But there just wasn't the gear that was fit for purpose. A lot of those original trucks were petrol trucks, and now they're diesel. And we've seen the same advances with possibly the bulldozers being phased out because excavators are so good. Don't get me wrong, it's still a great place for dozers and a great application for them, but look what excavators are doing, and look at how the operation has changed now. We're a pegless land development operation. The machines come inbuilt with your systems, and it's fantastic. That's the whole technology has moved on so much.
It's amazing how that technology has changed.
Yeah, we've got that mastless grader that you've just supplied us last year, and that's cutting edge technology with the Trimble in it, and I used to say on it, but it's in it now, so that's the important point. But that can be on a job doing the first cut, marking out the extent of the job, and it can be the last. It can be the final trim as well. So. Yeah, it's amazing where the equipment's come to, really.
Mm. And I suppose over all of those years, that you've had in contracting, you've probably got a favourite machine, maybe one of those ones from back in the day, or it might be, say, that mastless cat grader that you've just taken delivery of relatively recently. Is the one that sort of stands out, that's dear to your heart?
I think the problem with us is we get a bit attached to machines, and we probably keep them far too long. we go to trade them off you guys, and we just get to the point where we say, oh, we might just keep that. And so we've got to stop doing that because,
the fleet grows with that one.
Yeah, the fleet grows. But we do have, obviously, we're well known for our pretty extensive vintage fleet, and we've still got the little OC3 crawler there that, started the punga business. So that's probably a favourite. Modern equipment, like if you're really honest with yourself, productivity-wise, you can't get past a 12-ton excavator. They're our kind of go-to bread and butter machine, And you say what you like, and people say, they're too small, they're too this, they're too that, but, they're a great utility machine. So, you've got your new 313s now with the inbuilt Trimbles, and, they're proving to be a great machine in our company anyway. Very, very, very versatile machine.
They really do seem like a favourite sort of size for a lot of people for transport and getting in and around places and stuff like that. So it's quite good to sort of see from your perspective as well.
Yeah, no, they are. They're really good. But we're not frightened of trying new things, and possibly one of the best things we've tried in the past from your company is, I think you call it a skid steer, a Cat 259 and a 299. I think we've got both models in the. And one's putting the berms back together, and it's got a grass seeder and a Harley rake on the front, and the other's got the full Trimble system.
Yeah, they're the Cat compact track loaders.
Compact track loaders, that we call them. Yeah, well, fantastic, because we could get down right-of-ways and, cul-de-sacs where the 14-foot grader blade can't get. That would have to be one of the best investments we've made, getting into those. What did you call them?
Oh, compact track loader.
I call them skid steers. But anyway, compact track loader. So they are magic.
Yeah. No, they're a cool bit of kit.
Yeah.
So just with that sort of thing in mind, we sort of touched on the machines and that sort of thing. Obviously going back to your punga days and that, but are there any sort of favourite projects that stand out for you in your sort of period of time or escalation over time that you go, that was something that we sort of...
Well, how we got into Central Otago in the first place, because you've got to remember we were Dunedin boys, and not much happens in Dunedin sometimes. It's slightly better today. But Central Otago, everything was happening. Just think Queenstown. Now, the Clyde Dam got finished in about the 80s, and they'd grown too many trees for the dam project, because it was Ministry of Works days, I guess. They had their own nursery up in Loburn. Anyway, they tended off all the surplus trees at the end of the job, and I thought this would be a great idea if I bought these trees, and we bought thousands of them, thousands and thousands of these trees. They're semi-advanced grade. And then quite a few hotel projects were being built in Queenstown and Wanaka. And this is how I got into Wanaka. I think it was a project called Edgewater Resort, and I got a job because I had the trees, and I still had my little Kubota tractor. I could dig holes. We got a job planting these trees. And that opened our eyes to Central Otago and what a growth story it would be. So we moved the business to Wanaka, essentially, and because of that. Now, the favourite job is Meadowstone, which is a subdivision we started in 1993. It's a major western part of Wanaka now, and we're still building it today. So we've been continually building this one project for, nearly 30 years. So, and you look back and you can see streets, and more importantly, you can see a community that's very much alive, families that have been brought up in this community over all that time. It's got a rest home in it and all that sort of stuff. And it's a pretty nice project to sort of say, well, hang on, we built that, we constructed it, we sold it, and everyone that's bought into it has enjoyed it. And everyone's done very well financially as well because of property values in Central Otago. So that's been a great project.
And I can imagine sort of watching the same project over a period of sort of almost 30 years. It would be incredible to sort of look back to that first day when you were there starting it right the way through to now where you're still working on it. And I suppose you briefly touched on technologies, but are there any other things that you've seen?
Well, it was green as anything when we started. Like I turned up on that Meadowstone job with Kevin Capel in those days and employed him for the first time. Look, honestly, when I look back, and you've got to be a bit humble here, I probably didn't know the difference between a stormwater and a wastewater pipe, and anything about, what it took to build a road. But now that's all second nature to us. And we've got another big project in Wanaka called Three Parks, which is like Meadowstone, except it's a commercial area as well. And, we've just put a New World supermarket in and a Mitre 10 mega, and it's another 20 or 30 year project, big project over time. But what that's done is it's given us, guaranteed consistency of work. So we've had the confidence to expand, confidence to grow, but it hasn't always been that easy. I mentioned in 87 they're having a financial crisis. We had another one in 2008. We've had ups and downs, and now we've had COVID. So, business is not all beer and skittles.
Yeah, it's certainly amazing to see the growth of Wanaka over the last 20 years, and you've been a key part of that. And I think every couple of years you head down, then you see another part that's growing, and it really is quite amazing to see the town develop.
Well, we haven't seen anything yet, Richard.
Oh,
this is the amazing thing. This COVID, it's had its dark side, particularly in some industries. Hospitality, tourism down there's doing it tough, but it's going to have a bright side. Things are starting to open up now. It's a funny old country, this. We've been following Jacinda's orders and scare tactics and things, and then suddenly it's like everything's out the window and we're all going to just get back into it, which is good. Now, there are going to be some major changes happening in New Zealand. First of all, we're going to be a very attractive country to the rest of the world. When the government changes, it's probably going to welcome people with a few bob to come over to New Zealand and live here. Now, they're going to bring skills and they're going to bring further demand for properties and all sorts of things. It's going to be a win-win situation. And then New Zealanders are going to come back to New Zealand. I think they always probably were some of the New Zealanders that live overseas, but they're probably going to decide that living in a big, huge populace isn't as good as it could be. The game change has been you don't have to live where you work or work where you live anymore. You can. A lot of people are very skilled with, and they can work off their computer. They have all sorts of skills. So we're seeing that happen in Wanaka. We're seeing a huge increase in talent choosing Wanaka, choosing lifestyle, because COVID's changed how people look at things. You don't wait till you're 65 to retire and go on your first overseas trip or buy your first boat. People are wanting to live a lifestyle and they're wanting to make choices. COVID's been a major game changer, and we're getting right off the topic.
No, it's a really interesting conversation, and certainly some really valid points that you make there, Allan. So, Allan, you've got a pretty good collection of tractors in your shed in Wanaka, about 200, is that right?
Well, possibly more, but, who's counting them?
Tell us how that tractor collection came about, and I suppose what was the reason for it?
Well, the reason for it was, I said before we got a bit attached to old equipment sometimes, and it's certainly been the case with the company's Mack trucks. Anyway, the lads have started to go on these classic truck expeditions or tours, and they actually restored one for me, which was one of Bill Richardson's trucks, and I said, look, I'd like to go, but I think it should have something on the back of it, because I always think a truck rides nicer if it's got a bit of a load on it. So anyway, I bought this D2 out of Blenheim. We're up there for a quarry conference because we've got into quarrying nowadays, and we had to learn about quarrying. So we went to a quarry conference. Best way to learn about something, go to a bloody conference. Anyway, this fella had a D2 and he had some vintage tractors as well. And by the end of the quarry conference, we'd bought about 3 or 4 of these tractors. And I thought, this is quite good. This takes me back to the days when we used to cut pungas and we had the little Oliver.
Of course.
And I thought, it might be quite good to grow the collection to say 20 tractors, and so we did. And then it's like anything. Once you start reading about something or researching something or getting interested in something, you get more interested. And I was getting more interested in the whole history of New Zealand agriculture and early earth moving and all that sort of stuff and how New Zealand was developed. And I started to get a real passion for it. And these tractors, it wasn't so much the collecting them, but it was the people that you'd meet. And it took me all over the country, chasing tractors. It was like a, treasure hunt. And we met some characters. And then it started to take us overseas. And, to America, and we met more characters over there. So it's been a great thing. But it is important in business to not be totally focused on business, and it took us longer than it should have to realise that you need other interests outside business, some leisure interests. And I do it in motor racing and collect tractors nowadays, and it's a great thing. And it led to, obviously led to Wheels at Wanaka.
Yeah, one of the things you've said previously is that every tractor's got a tail.
Yeah.
Can you share a couple of your best tales from your collection of tractors?
I think, as I said, it's been going to the far-flung places in New Zealand, places you didn't even know existed, and finding these tractors, going to auctions, going overseas. But there was one particular tractor that's the favourite, which we found in Northland, and it was one of the first tractors that was ever brought into New Zealand, and its name's Eric, and it's a Saunderson Universal, which was the first tractor that the royal family got, King George V, on the royal farms, because they went out of horses into tractors. Well, this Saunderson was the first tractor that got the royal seal of approval, and a few came to New Zealand. Few exist now, but this one has miraculously survived. And so we've restored it, got it back into perfect order, and it's got such a story of what it's done and everything. So, but every tractor has got a tale. And one of my jobs is when we get a tractor is to find out where it's come from, what it's done, where it's been, if there's any particular stories. And every tractor has a story, and we record that, and we have them pretty well catalogued in our tractor museum nowadays. So it's been a great thing. Of course, there's quite a few people look at me sideways and wonder if I've sort of, haven't got a screw loose with all these tractors. But look, it's led to Wheels at Wanaka. We have a great biannual tractor festival with them, so it can't be all bad.
Yeah, they're certainly pretty impressive when they're collected together, in the shed that you've got there, and really interesting to sort of see the characters that are around those tractors, and also the story behind them as well. So I suppose that leads into the Wheels at Wanaka show. You just briefly touched on that before. Tell us about it, and where did the idea come from?
Well, in Wanaka, we have a famous air show called Warbirds over Wanaka, and it happens every 2 years, on the even years. And it makes Wanaka really busy. 50,000 people go to this air show at least, and it's a fantastic thing for Wanaka. But on the odd years, nothing happens at Easter. It's in between seasons, shoulder seasons. And I always thought about doing something with cars, classic cars coming to Wanaka. And then we sort of started thinking about it and widened the whole thing and said, why don't we do earth-moving tractors, vintage trucks, classic cars? Why don't we have a great big show that's unlike anything ever seen before in New Zealand? And instead of just sitting all this stuff in a paddock, why don't we have it all moving and operating and demonstrating? And everyone said, it's too hard, health and safety. There's 100 reasons why you shouldn't be doing stuff, you know what I mean, nowadays. But anyway, we decided that we could do it. We got a really good like-minded bunch of people around us. And we started planning this first event in 2019, not knowing what would happen. And it's just growing beyond all belief. We had another one in 2021. Tierra Cat came on board big time. You guys had a great time down there.
That was fantastic.
You sold more merchandise than you sold.
We did. We ran out of merchandise.
You ran out of merch. You met so many characters.
It was amazing the amount of people that were from all parts of the country that came in specifically for the event. And Well,
the earth moving is a huge side of it. The classic earth moving. The machines that built the dam projects, the roading projects, and the nice thing is, we've got like the Ross brothers coming from Hamilton, the Porters coming from Hamilton, are spending a couple of $100,000 on freight and bringing the biggest machines they can think of, or restore them and bring them, and they just love it. They just absolutely love coming down. They love meeting everyone else, and what it's done, which is a pretty unique thing. Because one of the problems with the contractors is they tend to, sort of try and, box each other out of the ring, if you like. Well, it's brought a lot of people together, even in a local sense, even in a Wanaka sense. The local contractors that have been brought together organising this thing is unbelievable, and a lot of these people realise that they're actually not arch competitors, that they actually got a lot of common. They actually quite enjoy each other's company, and it's been great to see. And it's brought the suppliers together with these contractors, and it's just a great event. So we're just starting to plan the 2023 event now. It takes a bit of planning. We've had to hire. It's got big, it's going to be huge. So we're really excited about it.
So that's planned for Easter 2023.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about how the planning's going? Is there anything that we can look forward to?
Well, in 2021, we had 100 years of grading, and we had, it was amazing. We had the first grader that came into the ring it had a horse pulling it. And I think then we had CNR developments with that 63-ton. I don't even know what you call that one.
24H.
That was a 24H.
Yeah.
24H.
The Cat 24H motor grader.
Yeah, and then I think probably right at the tail end we had one of Mungatua Contracting's latest ones. They do the ski fields down there in Wanaka. And so it was just the whole 100 years, or was it 120? 120 years of grading just laid out before everyone. So I thought that was great. So we were having a meeting the other day, just last week, in fact. I said, boys, what can we do? We've got to think of new things for 2023. We've got to roll out got to roll things out. What can we do? And we were talking about what car we had Land Rovers in 221. We've got to try and think of something else, and we got to think of something for, we were pretty lucky in 2021. We had Hayden Padden there. We had all sorts of stuff happening. It was a pretty good show. It's going to be tough to better it, but we will. And so what we're going to do for you guys in the earth moving stakes, and it's been decided because it doesn't take long to make decisions, that we're going to do 100 years of scrapers this time. And we are going to have, the horse pulling the little tip scraper or tumble. I think they called tumble box. I think Bill Hamilton invented a scraper early in the days. The jet boat people at Irishman's Creek.
Yes.
Yeah, they invented a scraper. There's been all sorts of things invented both locally and internationally, and of course these things get rather big when Caterpillar gets involved. So obviously we've got Paul Clark's 660 down there. We'll have modern scrapers. There'll be all sorts of things turn up right through to you boys better start importing the latest, what do you call them, 627s, don't you? You better sort of go home today and order one of those because you'll probably sell it after the show.
The bidding starts now.
So that's just a little tip for the people that are interested in wheels at Wanaka. If you're restoring a scraper at the moment, which a lot of people are, surprisingly enough, then bring it to Wheels at Wanaka 2023 because it's going to be awesome.
Puts a deadline on the restoration project.
Well, that's what it's done, yeah. It has. People have got stuff all over the place that they are restoring to bring out because these things didn't have a chance to play anywhere. They didn't have a sandpit before Wheels at Wanaka, but now they do. And, of course, a lot of the machines that come to Wanaka, they stay there. Like we're homing a heap of equipment from 2021 that's going to come back in 2023. As you can tell, it's a real passion. We love it, and we love hosting it. We love getting everyone down there, but it's not just us that's putting it on. It's a real team effort. There's a lot of people, a lot of the local contractors, a lot of sponsors like yourselves and Southpack Trucks with the Kenworths and DAFs, I should say. They are right behind us, and the sponsors are all coming back on board and saying, how can we help further? What can we do to make this show amazing? Because by international standards, and we went around the world to have a look at a few other shows, this show is, and may I humbly say it, in a humble way, it's pretty bloody good,
Yeah, we certainly thought it was from a TerraCat perspective, it was a fantastic show in 2021, and we're looking forward to involvement next time as well in 2023.
Well, we really appreciate your sponsorship. Yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you.
Now, I must say, so it's sort of a side thing for you. When I was down there, I did notice there were a couple of your cars on display down there as well. Did you want to tell us a little bit about your other passion of motorsport and just briefly touch on that one? Because I think it's when you touch on hobbies and stuff, it's a big part of your life and that sort of thing.
It's become a big part of my life, and it's taken me all over the world, and it's a bit like you need some hobbies outside work, and if you just do work all the time, you become a pretty boring person, I think. And I started racing MGs, and And the important thing about that is it's a bit like if you're riding a motorcycle, you don't want to get on the Suzuki 750 first up, you know what I mean? You just want to kind of, have your 250 or whatever it is. In my case, it was a Vespa. But anyway, the thing is, it's taken us all around the world. I've had the privilege of racing at Bathurst several times in the 12-hour race. We've taken cars to Germany to race in the 24 hours around Nürburgring. We've competed in the London to Sydney Marathon, 33 days across the world. We've gone across the Andes in cars. And the one thing that I've found is that I'm not really good at any part of motorsport, but we do a bit of everything. If we just concentrated on one bloody thing, we'd be pretty good. But we do, we've got rally cars and circuit cars and classic cars and things like that. But we did have success this year. Scott O'Donnell from Richardson Group and I have always owned a Porsche together for, 10 or 15 years, and we've got a pretty good one now. We got this really good one. We imported it out from Germany, and in its first race at Teretonga, which is one of the best race circuits in New Zealand, may I say, Scott was driving it, first race, inaugural race, and we had it all done up in the Allied Central Machine Hire colours. It was looking pretty bloody good, and it was a pretty special car. It's all made of carbon fibre and everything else, does everything for you. And within an hour, we'd ruined it. I didn't even get to drive it, actually, because Scott was driving first up. He always goes first, I go second in these endurance races. Anyway, we got tapped from behind. Scott got tapped from behind and backed it into the wall at 100 miles an hour, and the thing was just torn to pieces, and we had to give it a service. It was just, put a cover over it, and that was it. But anyway, we've resurrected it with a new chassis now, and back last year for the South Island Endurance Series, which we've been doing for years. But we've struggled to win it, to be honest. We've been second so many times, and you don't want to be the bridesmaid all your life. So we went back from complete zero in 2020 when we destroyed the car in the first race, and it bit us a bit, to winning it last year. So that was I mean, the moral of that story is never give up, and we didn't. So we're on top of the world at the moment, but whether we can stay there for 2022 is anybody's guess. But Scott and I do it for fun. We both have, in Scott's case, a very, very large business. In my case, a diverse business, and we both need to get out of the business and do a bit of motor racing. We both enjoy it. That's the bottom line. Oh,
fantastic stuff. So, Allan, it sounds like you've got a really great team of people around you. What's your secret to building and retaining those people?
Oh, well, you know how we talked about delegation and that I had to learn way back.
Yes.
Well, you got to delegate. You got to empower people. Empower is the word. And the thing is, there's one wee secret. And if you just realise this, in your mind, no one will do the job as well as you will. So in your mind, you're doing the job 100%. You might have a warped sense of reality, but that's what you think. And you need to accept in your mind that someone else will do it 80% as well. And if you're happy with the 80%, things will be good, because they'll actually end up doing it 110% better than you will. But you've got to empower them. You've got to let it go. If you're standing over someone and telling them what to do and being critical and being negative, you will never get a good team around you. You've got to let people make mistakes, and you've got to let people have their own successes.
That's certainly a great point.
Pretty simple.
And I suppose that sort of will relate back to yourself. So what drives you to succeed? You've obviously had some great achievements. What's some of the things that have driven you to success?
Well, I like growing a team around me, but I've tried to self-analyse why, I can't go on holiday, to the Gold Coast and sit on the beach. Well, I can for about a day, but I just need projects. I've always needed a project to have something to. I have to see a physical, but like landscaping, I have to be able to see a project. I couldn't be a computer program or anything like that. So I need a project. I'm a project person, and I need to have 3 or 4 at once, and I need to be balancing them, and I need to be, getting stuff done. I like getting stuff done. I've always been like that, and I always will be.
And I suppose with that in mind, what does the future hold for you and obviously sort of.
It's incredibly exciting because we're getting a lot of options now. We're getting quite established, and we're getting a lot of options. I like the obviously the business is pretty multidisciplinary. There's a lot of different areas we're in, but I love the construction industry. I love the civil. I love land development. We're getting into dry hire of equipment. We're going to be buying a new business shortly that's going to expand us into different areas, and we're going to be hiring out equipment to other contractors. So that's exciting. That's happening at the end of this month. There's lots of things that are really just starting to come to fruition. COVID, sort of weird ways opened up lots of opportunities for us. So look, the future's your oyster. It's what you want to be, but you got to dare to dream. And I think people will know this if they start visualizing things that can happen. Well, magically they do, and that's what we've always found.
I think that's some great advice for people coming into the industry and stuff like that as well. So
and we want to encourage new people into the industry. The biggest challenge in business today, and it's bitterness since COVID really, is staff. If I had more staff around me, and we're trying to recruit staff, and we're trying in all directions to get new staff, young staff into the country, because we've got an ageing workforce at Central Machine Hire. There's no doubt. I hope they're not listening.
Hopefully they will be listening.
Well, I'm one of the ageing ones too. But, it's tough to get people into the industry. Everyone wants to be behind a screen instead of a shovel, and the shovels are pretty good because they've got hydraulic power to them nowadays. So, that's a real challenge. And we could do with 10, 15 more staff at any one time to, the machines are the easy side. It's they're nothing without someone being able to drive them. That might change in the future, but you guys are going to have to put your thinking caps on there, aren't you, to get self-driven diggers?
No, it does sound like a very exciting future.
Oh, it's amazing. Yeah, there's just so much going to be happening. I'm just looking forward to the next 10, 20 years. It's just going to be great. This little country of ours, okay, we need a change at the top, but it's going to go forward, something wicked.
Fantastic.
And with that in mind, I'd like to say thank you, Allan, for coming on Breaking Ground today. It's been great chatting with you, and there's to our listeners, and that hope you've really enjoyed our conversations and stuff like that today.
Oh, I've loved talking to you guys. It's been amazing.
Fantastic.
Thanks very much.
No, you're welcome. And I suppose for the audience out there, we'd love your feedback. We really hope you've enjoyed today's session. Get in touch with us and send us a message on any of our TerraCat social media channels. And please keep an eye out on our TerraCat Facebook page for details about next month's episode of Breaking Ground.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.